Missing a $260 billion budget deadline isn't just a scheduling error. It's a management default that leaves every school district and municipality in New York State operating in a state of financial limbo.
Local and state lawmakers missed today's New York State budget deadline, and it's been pushed back. News 10 NBC's Chris Fortune shares the new deadline and what local lawmakers think about it.
I reached out to several lawmakers in the area to see if they were available to comment about the budget process.
What email should I send that to?
Assemblyman Josh Jensen joined me from the Assembly chamber. He told me the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act and auto insurance rates are part of the negotiations.
Certainly myself and families across New York, including right here in Monroe County, see their auto insurance rates going up. Yeah, and the question that we're discussing as part of the budget process is how do we bring those auto insurance rates down?
Last year's state budget was late by more than 5 weeks. Assemblyman Brian Mankdalo said the final budget was adopted in May.
Are you concerned about similar delays this year?
I am. Last year and the previous years, we've heard from our constituents, from our local communities, from our local municipalities, our schools, that, we really do need an on-time budget, especially for our schools.
Jensen said the longer a budget negotiation takes, the more time it takes away from other issues people care about.
I think we should be here. We should be debating the budget and true bipartisan negotiations, not just three people in a room who all share the same party, but having Democrats and Republicans together, because that's what makes up our state.
Governor Kathy Hochul's proposed fiscal year 2027 executive budget totals more than $260 billion, with most of it going toward the Department of Health and the State Education Department. I reached out to Governor Hochul's office by phone, and the person who answered directed me to email its press office. I have not heard back yet.
We are currently auditing a systemic governance breakdown, where the state's executive leadership is counting on economic growth that hasn't materialized while planning a massive capital outlay that the current revenue stream cannot support. This isn't just a missed date on the calendar. It's a liquidity crisis of policy, where the three people in a room are trying to re-engineer the auto insurance and environmental markets while the primary budgetary ledger remains uncertified and out of balance. I am Camilo Motado, and this is Camilo's House. I approach the legislative session like a distressed debt audit, where the board is trying to hide its operational deficit behind a short-term spending measure. In a standard professional audit, if a firm fails to submit its consolidated financials on time because the board is arguing over unrelated assets, you immediately issue a significant deficiency notice. Today, we are performing a budgetary solvency audit on New York. We are analyzing the material conflict between Governor Kathy Hochul's executive spending plan and a legislative body that is currently amortizing the debt of their own indecision. Governor Kathy Hochul's proposed fiscal year 2027 executive budget totals more than $260 billion, with a massive resource allocation toward the Department of Health and the State Education Department. From an investigative standpoint, the materiality of this budget is built on a progressive personal income tax that is becoming increasingly volatile. On April 7, 2026, New York State enacted its second week-long budget extension, as negotiations continue 5 days past the constitutional deadline. The state is counting on revenue from an economy facing global headwinds, which in accounting terms is overstating the assets of the taxpayer base. When you miss the deadline, you force sub-entities like local schools to estimate their liabilities without a certified funding source. This is a management override of process that creates systemic risk for the entire state's infrastructure. The internal conflict reaches a boiling point when we audit the New York City ledger. We are witnessing a hostile takeover of the budgetary narrative between the City Council and Mayor Zohran Mamdani. City Council Speaker Julie Menon has unveiled a $6 billion alternative savings proposal designed to plug a fiscal hole without liquidating services. They are proposing a hard no on property tax hikes and a freeze on rainy day fund withdrawals. From a forensic perspective, the council is trying to re-estimate the cost of vacant positions to save $860 million, a move Mamdani has labeled cherry-picking surpluses. The council's plan includes increasing revenue through $80 million in permit fees and auditing education department contracts to save $175 million. Mamdani's audit opinion is that this plan is unrealistic and creates individual deficits within agencies. This valuation conflict proves that the financial reporting standards of the city have suffered a total breakdown. The most eye-popping disclosure of the week is the true cost of living data. It now costs an insolvent $159,197 for a family of 4 to simply maintain operations in New York City. That is a high-tier burn rate that puts 5.04 million New Yorkers roughly 62% of the population, below the functional poverty line. When a reporter asked Mamdani where the jobs asset would come from to fund this liability, the response was a non-responsive disclosure. He spoke about universal childcare as a transformative impact that could save families $20,000 a year. But as an auditor, I track the source of funding. You cannot deliver free childcare if your primary revenue source is liquidating its presence in the city because of the very tax hikes Mamdani is proposing. This is a policy loophole that will lead to a massive outflow of capital. You can't tax the job creators into a growth strategy. The job situation in the city is a deteriorating asset. While the mayor celebrates industry growth, the shareholders are being pushed out of the portfolio by the inflationary surcharge of living in a hyper-regulated market. The city is currently counting on money that will not actually appear to fund a universal seat for every 2-year-old. This is pro forma governance, planning for a future surplus while the current ledger is deep in the red. The final reconciliation of the New York audit reveals a management team that is willfully blind to the material reality of an economic decoupling. You have haggling over environmental reviews and auto insurance rates, while the infrastructure of affordability is in foreclosure. New York is the most expensive city in the country, but its policy assets are non-performing. Until the state and city management can reach a consolidated agreement that doesn't rely on raiding the rainy day fund, the New York ledger remains functionally unauditable. My forensic verdict is that New York is currently operationally insolvent. They are counting on revenue that hasn't been verified, planning spending that hasn't been allocated, and ignoring the vacancy savings that could save the budget from total liquidation. The April 1st default is the leading indicator of a permanent crisis in the Empire State portfolio. Do you think the council's $6 billion savings plan is a valid accounting correction? Or is it just creative bookkeeping intended to avoid the political liability of a property tax hike?